Sometimes, the smallest hands lift the heaviest hearts, and one act of kindness in the rain would soon melt the walls around a billionaire's soul. If stories of compassion, second chances, and quiet miracles speak to your heart, please subscribe and stay with us until the very last chapter of this journey. Rain had just stopped falling over Central Park, leaving the pathways slick with silver light. Pigeons fluttered along Bethesda Terrace, shaking droplets from their wings, while the faint smell of roasted pretzels and wet earth mingled in the air. A girl no taller than the railing, barefoot, her brown curls tied in uneven loops, was crouched beside a wheelchair half sunk in a muddy puddle. "Don't cry," she said softly, her voice trembling from effort. "I'll get you out." Noah Pierce blinked back tears, clutching the armrests of his chair. He was 6, though months of physical therapy had made him seem smaller. His toy car, bright red and dented from use, had vanished into the muddy water. The right wheel of his chair was stuck deep, refusing to move no matter how he twisted the joystick. The girl, Maya Brooks, looked around quickly. She spotted a thick branch washed up by the rain and wedged it under the tire. "Ready? 1, 2, push!" she grunted. Her small arms strained, her shoes squelched in the mud. Then, with a crack and a splash, the chair rolled free. Noah gasped, breathless. For the first time in months, laughter escaped him, a startled, pure sound that carried across the terrace like a bell. Maya's grin widened. "See? I told you!" She knelt down, scooping his toy car from the puddle, rinsing it in the rainwater, and handing it back to him. "Don't let it drown next time." Before Noah could answer, a sharp voice sliced through the air. "Noah, what in the world?" Alexander Pierce strode toward them, black umbrella in hand, his Italian shoes splattered by the mud. His presence was like a shadow stretching over the terrace, tall, angular, pressed to perfection. The CEO of Whitestone Capital was not used to chaos, let alone watching his only son being rescued by a child dripping rainwater and courage. "Get away from him," Alex barked, stepping between them. He lifted Noah from the chair, brushing at the mud on his son's jacket. "You can't just touch people's things, young lady." Maya froze. Her heart pounded. The world suddenly felt enormous. I wasn't touching," she whispered. "His chair was stuck." "Daddy!" Noah's voice rose, sharp with frustration. "She helped me!" Alex ignored him, glancing at the bystanders, tourists under umbrellas, joggers pausing mid-stride, a violinist silenced mid-song. He could already feel the stares, the whisper of cameras. "You shouldn't be talking to strangers, Noah, especially not—" He stopped himself, jaw tightening. "Especially not what?" Maya asked quietly. The innocence in her voice hit harder than accusation. Alex looked down at her, wet hair sticking to her cheeks, a jacket 2 sizes too big, shoes tied with uneven knots. She reminded him of nothing from his world, and yet something deep within him flinched. "Go home," he said curtly. Maya nodded, but before she turned away, she looked up at Noah one last time. "I just didn't want you to be scared." Then she ran, her small figure disappearing past the colonnades, leaving muddy footprints like fragile signatures behind her. The silence that followed was louder than the rain. Noah sat rigid in his father's arms, clutching his toy car. "Why did you yell at her?" Alex exhaled through his nose, adjusting the boy in his arms. "Because people might misunderstand. She shouldn't have been that close to you." "But she wasn't hurting me." "She could have—" He stopped, catching the edge of Noah's defiant stare. "It's complicated, son." "It's not," Noah said. "She helped me. You didn't." The words were soft, but they landed like a hammer. Alex's throat tightened. He turned away, scanning the skyline where the wet glass of Fifth Avenue gleamed. A chauffeur waited at the curb, holding the car door open. "Let's go home," Alex murmured. Noah didn't reply. He simply held his toy car tighter as the Bentley pulled away, leaving behind the park and the small figure who had dared to care. That night, the city's lights glittered like broken promises across the windows of the Pierce penthouse. The walls of glass were spotless, reflecting everything except warmth. Alex sat before his laptop, half reading an email from the Whitestone board. Q3 earnings, market sentiment, risk outlook. None of it registered. From the nursery came a faint rustle. Noah was awake again, turning in his bed, murmuring through dreams. Alex stood in the doorway, watching the fragile rise and fall of his son's chest. It had been 2 years since the accident, the collision that stole his wife, Sarah, and left Noah in the wheelchair. In all those nights of hospitals and surgeons, Alex had sworn he would control everything that remained. Control meant safety. Control meant survival. But tonight, the image of a muddy little girl pulling at his son's wheelchair refused to fade. Her voice, tiny, firm, defiant, echoed inside him. "I just didn't want you to be scared." He rubbed his temples, trying to push it away, but the words kept returning, threading through his thoughts like rain under a closed door. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Maya sat cross-legged beside her mother's food cart under the Harlem Viaduct. The last batch of pretzels cooled on the tray, and the air smelled faintly of cinnamon sugar. "Rough day?" her mother asked gently. Maya nodded, tracing circles in the condensation of her paper cup. "I met a boy who couldn't walk. His daddy got mad when I helped." Her mother paused, then placed a warm hand on her daughter's back. "Sometimes grown-ups forget what kindness looks like when they're hurting." "Will he be okay?" "I think he will," her mother said softly. "Because someone cared enough to get muddy." Maya smiled faintly, though her eyes glimmered with leftover tears. She took out a scrap of paper from her pocket, smoothed it on her lap, and began to write in uneven letters. "Noah, don't be sad. I'll play with you again." She folded the note carefully, the way she had seen her teacher fold paper cranes, and tucked it into her jacket pocket. Outside, the rain began again, gentler this time, like the start of something waiting to grow. The next morning, Fifth Avenue shimmered under an early spring light, its polished limestone facades glowing pale gold. The doorman of 825th, Mr. Whitaker, a tall man with a pressed uniform and quiet dignity, stood at attention beside the revolving door. His gloves were spotless, his posture military. Everything about this building whispered hierarchy. Maya Brooks didn't belong there. She stood outside the ornate gate, her raincoat still damp from the night before, clutching a folded piece of paper she had written by flashlight. Her mother had told her not to wander too far from the pretzel cart, but she'd promised herself she'd deliver the note. On the envelope, in crooked blue crayon, it said, "For Noah, from Maya." From the window of the penthouse, Noah pressed his palm to the glass. His eyes lit up when he saw the small figure below. "Daddy, she's here!" Alexander Pierce was already half-dressed for his morning board briefing. Dark suit, Windsor knot, the air of a man built out of routines. "Who's here?" "Maya, the girl from the park," Noah said, excitement cracking through his usual quiet voice. Alex stiffened. "She came here?" He walked to the window, scanning the sidewalk far below. There she was, tiny, standing on tiptoe at the security desk, handing something to the doorman. For a moment, he saw the ghost of his late wife Sarah's handwriting in that envelope, childlike, uneven. But then, as always, reason rushed in. He turned away, voice clipped. She shouldn't be here. Downstairs, Maya smiled up at Mr. Whitaker. Please, can you give this to Noah Pierce? He lives up there. The doorman hesitated. Miss, do you have an appointment? What's that? It means, are they expecting you? No, she said truthfully, but I saved his chair. He said we'd play again. The man studied her for a long moment, his disciplined composure softening just a little. You're the one from the video, he murmured under his breath. He had seen it on a neighbor's phone that morning. Just a few seconds of a drenched little girl pulling a rich man's son from a puddle. Finally, he sighed. All right. I'll make sure he gets it. Maya's smile bloomed like morning light. Thank you, mister. She handed him the note with both hands, then turned and ran, her braids bouncing behind her. Upstairs, Alex was on a conference call when Mr. Whitaker's message came through. Young girl named Maya dropped off a note for Master Noah. Should I deliver? He stared at the text. His assistant was speaking in his ear. We'll need your statement on the ESG committee agenda, sir. But Alex barely heard. 1,000 instincts collided inside him. Protect Noah, protect reputation, protect control. In another window on his screen, headlines glowed. CEO Alexander Pierce caught on camera berating child in Central Park. Public outrage over viral incident. It was everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, even Page 6, teasing a billionaire temper tantrum. Crisis Communications had already sent him the talking points. No comment at this time. Private family matter. He felt cornered in glass. He walked to the trash bin beside his desk, the paper from Whitaker trembling in his hand. Noah was watching from the doorway. Was that from Maya? The boy asked, hope flickering behind the question. Alex hesitated. You could tell him the truth, a voice inside whispered, or you could protect him from the noise. He dropped the envelope into the bin. No, he said evenly. Just junk mail. Noah's face fell, confusion clouding into silence. He turned his wheelchair around, retreating down the hallway. Alex's hand clenched. The sound of the chair's small wheels rolling away was worse than any investor call he'd ever faced. That afternoon, the Whitestone Capital Board meeting began with the usual precision. 12 executives, polished oak table, skyline reflections across the glass walls. The agenda read, Crisis Image Management, Q1 Review, ESG Impact. Alex presented his quarterly figures flawlessly, but the undercurrent was cold. His COO, a woman named Denise Halpern, shifted her tablet. Alex, the clip from yesterday is getting traction. We've got mentions from Bloomberg and CNBC. PR suggests a neutral stance, no engagement yet. I agree, said one director. The optics are delicate. Any emotional statement might expose us to liability under Rule 10b-5. Optics, Alex muttered, almost to himself. That's what matters, isn't it? Denise frowned. Until it isn't handled, yes. He leaned back, gaze unfocused. Through the window he could see the distant green of Central Park. A child's laughter echoed in memory, clear and defiant. She helped me. The boardroom suddenly felt smaller than Maya's puddle. That night, Noah refused dinner. He stared at the untouched plate of grilled salmon, his fingers tapping the table edge in restless rhythm. I'm not hungry, he said. You need to eat, Alex replied, his voice sharper than intended. Noah's hands trembled. I wanted to tell her thank you. Alex set his fork down slowly. Sometimes, saying nothing protects people more. Then why does it hurt? He didn't have an answer. The silence between them thickened like glass, transparent, cold, impossible to break without cutting yourself. In the penthouse elevator, Mr. Whitaker rode up for the night shift handover. He had done what protocol demanded, logged the visitor, notified the resident, received no reply. Still, something about that small note lingered in his chest. When the elevator opened onto the lobby again, he glanced around, then quietly slipped the folded paper from his pocket. He had retrieved it from the trash when housekeeping brought the bins down. He hesitated for a heartbeat, then placed it gently on the marble counter behind the concierge desk, beneath a small bronze plaque that read, "Integrity above all." At dawn, Noah wheeled himself to the living room. The sky over Central Park was lavender and soft. He reached for his toy car and, beside it, saw the envelope, creased but dry. He recognized his name written in crooked blue crayon. He unfolded it carefully. "Noah, don't be sad. I'll play with you again." The handwriting wobbled with innocence, the ink slightly smudged, yet it was enough to pull a smile from his face. Upstairs, Alex stood in the hallway, unseen. He watched as his son held that note to his chest, eyes closed, the faintest peace returning to his expression. Something inside Alex cracked, not loudly, just a small fracture in the armor he had spent years forging. He whispered into the still air, almost against his will. "She found a way in." Outside, the sun rose higher, spilling through the glass walls and lighting the note in Noah's hands like a promise waiting to be kept. By mid-morning, the sky over Manhattan was a soft bruise, gray-blue clouds swelling over the park, wind curling between the towers like restless breath. A light drizzle began to fall across Fifth Avenue, misting the marble facade of the Pierce Building. The doorman, Mr. Whitaker, had just switched to his raincoat when he saw her again. Maya Brooks stood at the front gate, small hands gripping a folded paper bag to keep it dry. Her red umbrella was broken, one rib bent outward like a bird's wing. Rain traced shiny rivers down her cheeks and the front of her jacket. Inside the lobby, Mr. Whitaker frowned. "You again, Miss Maya?" She nodded earnestly. "I brought cookies for Noah, cinnamon ones. Mommy said maybe he can smell them even if he can't come outside." He hesitated. "It's not allowed to deliver food without clearance, you know." "I just want to see if he's okay," she said, voice quivering but steady. The man sighed. He'd served this building 23 years, seen celebrities, politicians, and billionaires stride through with perfect indifference. But this little girl, half his height, shoes soaked, holding a paper bag like it was hope itself, had more grace than most of them. "I'll call upstairs," he murmured. Up in the penthouse, Noah sat near the window, tracing raindrops down the glass with his fingertip. When the intercom buzzed, he turned instantly. "It's the little girl again, sir," Whitaker's voice came through. "She brought cookies." Alex paused. He was halfway through a video meeting with the PR team, crisis mitigation, stakeholder sentiment, projected fallout curve. "I'll handle it," he said curtly, clicking the call off. He glanced toward Noah, whose eyes were already wide with hope. "She's downstairs?" the boy asked. "Apparently." "Can I see her?" "No." "Why not?" Alex took a measured breath. "Because it's raining, and because this family has already been under enough cameras for one lifetime." Noah's voice sharpened. "You think she's a threat?" Alex almost said yes, but the truth snagged on his tongue. "I think the world is," he answered instead. Noah's shoulders sagged. "Then maybe you should stop fighting the wrong people." Outside, the rain thickened. Maya waited under the portico, hugging her paper bag as water pooled around her shoes. Commuters rushed past, their umbrellas bumping like restless birds. A mother pushing a stroller glanced at her, frowned. "Where are your parents, sweetheart?" "My mom's at work." I just came to see my friend. The woman smiled kindly, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. You shouldn't be out here alone. I'll be fine, Maya said softly. The doorman stood nearby, torn between duty and decency. Upstairs, Alex was pacing, the storm outside echoing the one in his head. Finally, he straightened his tie and took the elevator down. The lobby doors parted with a hiss, letting in the smell of rain and asphalt. Alex stepped out beneath the portico. Maya, he said evenly. She startled, then smiled, small and bright. Hi, Mr. Pierce. I made cookies for Noah. They're very kind, he said, his tone clipped, but not unkind. But you can't come here again. Why? He searched for words that didn't sound cruel. Because people take pictures. Because every time someone posts something online, it becomes harder for me to protect him. Maya blinked at him through the rain. Protect him from what? From friends? Her question cut through his polished logic like glass underfoot. Before he could answer, Noah's voice rang out from above. Dad! Alex turned. There, on the second-floor balcony that overlooked the portico, Noah had rolled his wheelchair to the edge, rain speckling his hair. She helped me, he shouted. She's my friend! Maya! He waved both arms. Don't go! A crowd had gathered on the sidewalk. Dog walkers, delivery men, 2 tourists holding up their phones. The hum of recording began, quiet but electric. Alex's pulse jumped. He stepped forward, one hand raised. Noah, get back inside, now! But Noah didn't move. His small hands clenched the rails. You don't need to be afraid of her, he yelled over the wind. The sentence hung there, innocent, defiant, unforgettable. The phones caught everything. The billionaire father, the disabled child, the drenched little girl holding a paper bag of cookies. Maya, Alex said again, lowering his voice. Please go home. Her chin trembled, but she nodded. Okay. She placed the paper bag on the marble step, turned, and walked back into the rain. For a fleeting moment, Alex saw her reflection in a puddle, tiny, blurred, vanishing into gray. Behind him, a woman muttered to her friend, That's him, the guy from the video. He didn't look back. He only felt the weight of 100 silent judgments pressing on his suit. When he returned upstairs, Noah was crying. Not loud, just quiet, gasping sobs that shook his small frame. She's gone because of you. Alex knelt beside the chair. I'm trying to protect you. No, Noah whispered. You're protecting yourself. That night, rain hammered against the penthouse windows. Alex sat alone in the study, scrolling through messages from PR. Social sentiment turning negative. Public expects statement. Advise immediate distancing. He stared at those words. Distancing, optics, containment, until they blurred. On another tab, the video from that afternoon was already viral. Millions of views. A stranger's caption read, You don't need friends like her. Billionaire's words to a child who saved his son. Except those weren't his words. He'd said something else. But it didn't matter. Truth had no traction online. He pressed play. The camera wobbled as rain fell across the lens. Maya's small figure glowed faintly in the gray light, her hand clutching the bag of cookies. Noah's voice echoed from above. She's my friend. Then silence. Then the title in white letters, Class Divide on 5th Avenue. He closed the laptop. For a long moment, he just sat there, listening to the rain. Somewhere deep in the apartment, Noah's laughter from months ago replayed in memory. The sound that used to fill the halls when Sarah was alive. Now there was only the rhythmic tapping of rain against glass. He whispered to the empty room, "What have I done?" Hours later, at the pretzel cart in Harlem, Maya and her mother cleaned up the last crumbs of the day. Her hair was still damp, her eyes tired. Her mother glanced at her gently. "Did you see your friend?" Maya shook her head. "He wasn't allowed." "Did you give him the cookies?" She hesitated. "I left them on the step. Maybe someone will give them to him." Her mother smiled sadly. "Kindness always finds its way. Maybe not today, but it never gets lost." Maya looked out at the city lights glowing through the mist. "Do you think rich people can be kind, too?" Her mother thought for a long moment. "They can," she said softly, "when they remember what it feels like to be small." Maya nodded, tucking her knees close, whispering to herself, "Then I hope he remembers." Up on Fifth Avenue, Alex stood alone on the balcony where Noah had shouted earlier. The rain had stopped. Puddles mirrored the night sky. In the reflection, for the first time, he saw not a CEO or a widower or a protector, but a man trapped inside his own reflection. Somewhere below, on the marble step, lay a soggy paper bag. He bent down and picked it up. Inside were 2 misshapen cinnamon cookies wrapped in a napkin that read, in a child's scrawl, "Be happy again." He stood there in the silence, the city humming beneath him, holding the smallest gift he'd ever been given. And for the first time in years, Alexander Pierce felt something close to shame, and the beginning, however faint, of change. The penthouse at 820 Fifth Avenue was a world of perfection. Soundproof walls, imported marble floors, and panoramic glass panels that caught every inch of Central Park's morning light. Yet for all its beauty, it felt like a museum of silence. Every reflection in the glass seemed to accuse Alexander Pierce of something he could not name. The viral storm hadn't passed. It had only gathered force. Hat Glass Father trended for the 3rd day in a row. Opinion pieces on ethics and privilege bloomed like weeds across every platform. Investors called, board members worried, publicists panicked. But inside the walls of glass, the only sound that mattered was Noah's soft, uneven breathing from the next room. Noah hadn't eaten since yesterday. His breakfast, scrambled eggs and fruit slices, sat untouched on the tray. His toy car rested beside his cereal bowl, its wheels caked with dried mud from that day in the park. Alex stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, Denise, I read the brief. I understand the exposure. No statement yet. Just follow the crisis comms playbook." His voice was calm, disciplined, efficient, until Noah's quiet voice cut through. "Dad, do you even hear me anymore?" Alex froze mid-sentence. "I'll call you back," he murmured into the phone and set it aside. "Of course I hear you." Noah turned toward him, eyes tired. "Then why do you keep talking like I'm one of your meetings?" The question landed like a dart. "I'm doing what's best for you," Alex said, defensive by instinct. "You mean what's best for you?" Noah replied softly. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. That calm defiance, so unlike the fragile boy Alex had carried from hospitals, unsettled him more than anger ever could. Alex sighed. "Noah, please. You don't understand how the world works." "I understand that she was kind," Noah said. "And you punished her for it." Later that morning, a home care nurse arrived, checking Noah's braces, recording his vitals, noting the muscle tone in his legs. "Range of motion improving," she said clinically, marking a tablet. "Has he been doing his PT and OT exercises at home?" Alex nodded automatically. "Of course." Noah didn't speak. The nurse looked up, sensing the tension. "He's progressing well," she said gently. "But motivation matters. Joy is therapy." Alex blinked. Joy? Yes, she said. Without it, even the best care plan fails. He followed her gaze to Noah's therapy chart pinned to the corkboard. Transfer practice, incomplete. Balance exercises, skipped. Emotional support, pending. The nurse left soon after, her words lingering like an indictment. When the apartment fell quiet again, Alex walked to the study. The room was lined with awards, plaques, magazine covers proclaiming his genius. But at the far corner, framed in shadow, was a photograph that didn't belong. Sarah, his late wife, holding baby Noah under a canopy of cherry blossoms in Central Park. Her smile looked alive, unguarded. The way her hand cradled the child, gently, fearlessly, was the one thing he could never reproduce. He sat down, elbows on knees, breathing hard. The glass walls reflected him from every side. A man surrounded by transparency, but trapped in denial. He remembered Sarah's last words before the accident. Let him live, Alex, not just survive. He had sworn he would protect Noah from everything. From pity, from headlines, from pain. But somehow, in building a fortress, he had forgotten to let his son live. At noon, the rehab specialist from HSS called. Mr. Pierce, just following up about Noah's IEP update for his school integration. Yes, Alex said absently. Postpone it. Postpone? The woman sounded surprised. Sir, the individualized education plan ensures he gets adaptive transport, occupational therapy sessions, and social reintegration. He's ready for next steps. Alex rubbed his temples. He's not ready for the world right now. With respect, the therapist replied, the world's not ready for him until you let it be. Children like Noah rebuild confidence through community, not isolation. Her words struck deeper than she knew. He thanked her tersely and hung up. That evening, Noah's cries broke the stillness. Alex rushed to his room, finding his son tangled in blankets, clutching the toy car, sobbing. I dreamed the puddle again, Noah said between gasps. The wheel was stuck and nobody came this time. Alex's throat tightened. He sat on the edge of the bed, unsure what to do with his hands. For years, he had negotiated billion-dollar mergers, diffused shareholder uprisings. But now, faced with his own child's pain, he felt helpless. He reached out awkwardly, brushing a curl from Noah's forehead. It's just a dream. Noah shook his head. No, it's what you did. You left her there. Alex swallowed hard. I didn't mean to. Then why didn't you say sorry? The question stripped him bare. I don't know, he whispered. The night stretched long. Alex walked the silent halls of glass, his reflection following like judgment. He passed Sarah's old piano, untouched since the funeral, and for the first time lifted the lid. The ivory keys were cold. He pressed one note, then another. The sound was thin, unsure, but it filled the space with something human. Behind him, Noah's wheelchair rolled quietly to the doorway. Mom used to play that, the boy said. I know, Alex replied, his voice trembling. She said music heals the things words can't. Then play it again, Noah said softly. Alex did. Slowly, haltingly. The melody faltered, then found rhythm. The same lullaby Sarah had played for Noah in the hospital recovery room. When the final note faded, Noah whispered, I miss her. So do I, Alex said. For a brief moment, the walls of glass seemed to breathe again, the city's reflection shimmering with the smallest pulse of warmth. But as night fell, the screens on Alex's desk lit up once more. Emails, alerts, notifications. PR drafts, investor reactions, legal memos, the noise of a world that demanded control. He stared at it all, then turned off every screen. In the darkness, he whispered to himself, "Control doesn't heal." His gaze drifted toward the window, where raindrops traced faint trails down the glass. Beyond them, the city glowed with messy, imperfect life. He thought of Maya, mud-streaked, fearless, kind, and of how her simple words had cut through all his systems and protocols. "I just didn't want you to be scared." Somewhere deep within him, a decision began to form, not yet action, but a shift. The kind of shift that starts as a whisper and becomes the roar of change. The morning after the storm, New York City woke to a new kind of noise. Not sirens, not traffic, but the quiet hum of collective judgment. Phones buzzed in cafes, offices, subway cars. The photo of Alexander Pierce standing under the Fifth Avenue portico beside a drenched child had landed on the front page of page 6. The headline was short, sharp, merciless. "Billionaire scolds girl who saved his son. Public demands apology. Board members concerned over ESG backlash." Underneath, the caption read, "Compassion doesn't need a trust fund." By 9 a.m., Alex's inbox was overflowing. Investor inquiries, PR flags, board alerts. Whitestone Capital shares dip 2.3%. After viral incident. The tone from the top, he realized grimly, was now the tone of shame. Inside the penthouse, the world felt smaller than ever. Noah sat by the breakfast table, pushing blueberries around his plate with the back of a spoon. Alex poured himself coffee, pretending to read the Wall Street Journal. The silence was heavy, brittle. On the TV, muted but unavoidable, the Good Morning America anchor's lips moved beneath the caption, "Public outcry over billionaire's treatment of hero girl." Noah glanced up at the screen. "That's us." Alex's jaw tightened. "They don't know the full story." "They know enough," Noah said quietly. He set the spoon down, looking straight at his father. "You should have said thank you." The words pierced through like sunlight through glass, gentle, unrelenting. Alex tried to speak, but no argument sounded right. "It's complicated," he muttered. "It's not," Noah replied, his voice trembling now. "You're sorry, but only inside your head. That doesn't help anyone." At 10 o'clock, the crisis meeting began. The conference call tone beeped through the apartment. PR lead, connected. Legal counsel, connected. Investor relations, connected. "Morning, everyone," Alex began, his tone clipped. "Let's keep this brief." But nothing about it was brief. "Alex, we've been monitoring sentiment since 6 a.m., Denise Halpern, the COO, said. "We're trending on Twitter, Reddit, and even TikTok. ESG investors are nervous. Stakeholder mapping shows reputational risk expanding across all verticals." "Define expanding," Alex said dryly. "The story's become a symbol," Denise replied. "It's no longer about you or the girl, it's about the narrative. Wealth versus empathy." Legal counsel added, "If you respond emotionally, it may trigger securities concerns under Regulation FD. Best course, controlled statement through IR, something neutral, acknowledging the incident without admitting fault." Alex pinched the bridge of his nose. "In other words, say nothing that costs money." "Precisely," said the lawyer. He muted the call. Outside, Central Park gleamed under a rare slice of sunlight. Children were playing near the Bethesda fountain, their laughter faint but unmistakable. He envied them, unaware of optics, shareholders, and page views. He unmuted, Draft a holding statement. Keep it factual. Mr. Pierce values community safety and supports ongoing review of accessibility initiatives. Make it sound decent. PR replied, "We'll circulate within the hour." But as he said it, he caught Noah's reflection in the glass wall. Small, watching, disappointed. Alex turned the screen away. By late afternoon, Nextdoor and Reddit Manhattan exploded with commentary. That kid has more heart than half of Wall Street. Money doesn't buy decency. What's Whitestone doing for ADA access anyway? Within hours, shareholders began emailing investor relations. One wrote, "If your CEO can't manage empathy, how can he manage risk?" That line hit Alex harder than any editorial. That evening, Noah refused to join dinner again. When Alex went to his room, the boy was sitting on the floor beside his wheelchair, a tablet open on his lap. He was watching the clip again, the one from Central Park. The sound was faint but haunting. "She helped me! You don't need friends like her!" Alex's chest constricted. "Noah, turn that off!" "No," the boy said without looking up. "It's my life too." Alex stepped forward. "Watching that won't help. Neither does pretending it didn't happen." Silence filled the room. Then Noah whispered, "Everyone's talking about her, but no one knows her name." He turned the tablet so his father could see the comment section. Thousands of messages, some cruel, some kind, and among them one that stood out. "If anyone knows the girl's name, tell her she's not alone." Noah looked up. "Can we find her?" Alex hesitated. "That's not—" "Please, Dad. Just to say thank you." Alex's throat tightened. He wanted to agree, but fear still clung to him. Fear of scrutiny, of headlines, of losing control again. "I'll think about it," he said softly. Noah turned away. "You already did. You just keep saying no." Later that night, Alex stood by the window overlooking the city. His reflection glimmered faintly in the glass. Layered over the skyline, a man built of light and guilt. He thought of every speech he had ever given about integrity and leadership. The words rang hollow now. He opened his laptop, scrolling past board memos until he reached the Whitestone Values Charter. The final line stared back at him. "Tone from the top determines trust." He whispered to the empty room, "Then maybe the top's been tone deaf." He closed the laptop and walked toward Noah's room. The boy had fallen asleep with the tablet still in his lap. On the screen was a paused image of Maya, smiling shyly through the rain. Alex knelt down, brushing Noah's hair aside, his voice barely audible. "You're right. I should have said thank you." He reached out and turned off the tablet, but the image stayed in his mind. Small, brave, unafraid. The next morning, he arrived at Whitestone headquarters in Midtown. The air inside was sharp with disinfectant and ambition. As he stepped into the executive floor, conversations dropped, phones lowered. Even his assistant looked nervous. On the front desk lay a copy of the New York Post, headline circled in red ink by someone's hand. Pierce silent amid growing backlash. He stared at it for a long time, then said quietly to his assistant, "Prepare a statement. Not for investors, for the truth." "Sir?" "I'll deliver it myself." He walked into his office, the city sprawling beneath him like a living organism, restless, wounded, waiting. That night, back home, Noah asked, "Are you going to fix it?" Alex didn't answer right away. He looked at his son, then at the empty space where Sarah's piano stood in the corner. "Yes," he said finally, "but not with words, with action." Noah tilted his head. "Does that mean you'll find her?" Alex managed a small smile. "It means I'll start by being the kind of man who can." Morning arrived cold and too bright. Sunlight streamed through the glass walls of the Pierce penthouse, illuminating a table set for two, a silver coffee pot, 2 glasses of orange juice, a bowl of blueberries no one would eat. The silence between father and son was louder than any argument. Noah tapped his fork against the edge of the plate. His wheelchair sat beside the long dining table, just beneath a painting of Central Park in winter. "You didn't sleep again," he said softly. Alex sipped his coffee, eyes distant. "Neither did you." "I wasn't the one pacing at 3 in the morning," Noah replied. Alex set the cup down. "I had work to finish." "Liar." The word was quiet, but sharp. He looked up. "Excuse me?" "You were watching the video again," Noah said. "I heard it." Alex's throat tightened. "I needed to understand what people are saying." "Why?" Noah's gaze was steady. "You already know what's true." He turned his chair slightly, facing the window where Central Park stretched below like a green ocean. "Everyone knows what you did, Dad. What they don't know is what you'll do now." A knock broke the tension. The door opened just enough for Denise Halpern, Whitestone's COO, to step in. She carried a folder stamped "Confidential, Board Matters." "Morning, Alex," she said gently. "I'm sorry to intrude, but the board asked for an update before noon. Investor relations needs a direction." "Direction?" Alex repeated, rising to his full height. "Do they want numbers or conscience?" Denise sighed. "Both. That's what leadership is." She lowered her voice. "They're suggesting an independent review, a values statement, maybe a donation toward accessibility causes. It would send a good message." Alex caught the subtext. Damage control. Noah's small voice floated from behind him. "So you're buying forgiveness?" Denise froze, startled by the child's clarity. Alex closed his eyes briefly. "Not now, Noah." "Why not? You talk about fixing things, but all you fix are words." Denise gave Alex a discreet look and retreated. "I'll come back later," she murmured, slipping out. The door shut with a soft click, leaving silence that felt heavier than steel. Noah rolled his chair closer to the table. His face was pale but determined. "You always say money can solve problems. But maybe that's why you can't see real ones." Alex bristled. "Watch your tone." "I'm watching you," Noah said. "And I don't like what I see." The words hit harder than he expected. "You're ashamed of me, aren't you?" Noah whispered. Alex froze mid-motion. "What?" "You never let me go outside without hiding behind bodyguards. You never let anyone see my chair. Even at Mom's memorial, you stood in front of me so people wouldn't stare." "That's not true," Alex said, though his voice betrayed him. "It is," Noah said. "You think you're protecting me, but you're really protecting you. Because you don't know how to look at me without remembering her." The coffee spoon slipped from Alex's hand, clattering against the plate. "Noah." The boy's voice rose, trembling. "If Maya can't come, this isn't home." The sentence shattered the air. Alex stared at him, speechless. For a moment, he saw not a child but a mirror reflecting everything he'd buried: fear, pride, grief. He turned away, pressing a hand over his eyes. "You don't understand the world yet." "Maybe not," Noah said, "but I understand people. Maya does too. That's why she helped me, even when she had nothing." He wheeled backward, his voice small but steady. "You have everything, Dad. And you still can't see." When the door to Noah's room clicked shut, Alex sank into the nearest chair. His breath came shallow. The echo of his son's words filled the hollow apartment. If Maya can't come, this isn't home. He poured another cup of coffee with shaking hands, but it tasted bitter, like every decision he'd justified as for the company. On the counter, his phone buzzed with notifications. Board alert. Meeting rescheduled to 1:00 p.m. Mandatory attendance. Subject, tone from the top, immediate review. He clicked the link. The internal memo read, "Given recent events, the board expects a concrete plan to demonstrate social accountability and human-centered leadership. Failure to provide clarity may trigger independent oversight. A polite way of saying, change or we'll replace you." Alex leaned back, the irony twisting inside him. For years he'd believed he could buy forgiveness, delegate empathy, outsource responsibility. Now his own company was demanding what his child already had, a heart. When Denise returned an hour later, she found him staring out the window, untouched files spread before him. "Alex?" she said quietly. He looked up. His eyes were clearer now. Haunted, yes, but focused. "I'll draft the value statement myself," he said. "And I want the next board memo to start with this line. Integrity doesn't trend, it endures." Denise hesitated. "You're going public?" "Not yet," Alex said. "First, I need to fix something private." That evening, Noah refused dinner again. The nurse reminded Alex to check his blood sugar before bedtime. He nodded absently. After she left, the apartment fell into its usual quiet hum. Alex stood by the piano, the faint echo of Sarah's music still clinging to the keys. He took a deep breath, walked to Noah's door, and knocked. "Go away," came the small voice. He stepped inside anyway. The boy sat by the window, staring out at the dark skyline. "I deserve that," Alex said softly, "but I need you to listen." Noah didn't turn. "You always say that." "I mean it this time," Alex said. "I've spent years thinking strength was silence, that protecting you meant keeping the world out. But maybe protecting you means letting the world in." Noah looked over, eyes wet. "Then prove it." Alex knelt beside the wheelchair, lowering himself until they were face to face. "I will. I promise." For the first time, Noah didn't pull away. Later, alone in his study, Alex opened his laptop and began typing. Independent Review Initiative. Values Statement. Subject, restoring trust. Through action. Leadership means humility. Transparency means listening. And strength means the courage to say, "We were wrong." Whitestone Capital will not issue another hollow press release. Instead, we will begin an internal review, led by independent counsel, to rebuild the trust we've lost, starting with community accessibility and child inclusion programs. He paused, fingers trembling over the keyboard. Then, at the bottom, he added a single handwritten note on the printed draft. "Tone from the top begins at home." He stared at the words until they blurred. Then he whispered into the quiet room, "Tomorrow, I'll go to Harlem." The morning unfolded slow and quiet, like a confession waiting to be spoken. The city outside glimmered pale through the April haze, traffic murmuring down Fifth Avenue. Inside the Pierce penthouse, Alexander stood in the West Wing, the room he had not entered since Sarah died. Dust floated in shafts of sunlight that cut through the curtains. The walls were lined with framed photographs. Sarah in a white coat at Mount Sinai Hospital, smiling beside a young patient. Sarah pushing baby Noah in a stroller through Central Park. Sarah at the piano, laughing, mid-note. It was a room built for remembering. He had locked it because memory hurt. Now he stepped forward, one hand brushing over the edge of her old violin case. The air smelled faintly of cedar and old paper. On the dresser lay a folded piece of hospital stationery, yellowed at the edges, her handwriting looping across the page. "Joy is therapy," Don't let him live behind glass. The same words the nurse had said days ago. The same words he had ignored. Alex sat on the edge of the bed, holding that note between trembling fingers. "Sarah," he whispered, "I think I finally understand." He looked up. Morning light slanted through the east-facing window, catching his reflection in the glass frame of her photo. For once, the reflection didn't look like a CEO. It looked like a man ready to kneel. He left a voicemail for Denise. "Cancel the noon meeting. Board can wait. There's something I have to do first." Downstairs, his driver opened the car door, but Alex shook his head. "I'll take a cab." "Sir?" "I said I'll walk." The man hesitated, then stepped aside. Alex hadn't walked more than a few blocks in years. His life had been boardrooms, elevators, private terminals. But this morning, he walked, past the boutiques and galleries of Madison Avenue, past the vendors calling out their prices, past faces that didn't look up. The spring wind carried the smell of hot coffee and wet asphalt. A busker strummed a slow tune on the corner of 110th and 5th. By the time he reached Harlem, the rhythm of the city had changed, less polished, more human. Children ran past him laughing, backpacks bouncing. A woman sold flowers from milk crates, and an old man sat under a mural reading "Love Lives Here." Alex stopped in front of a modest brick building near Marcus Garvey Park. The paint on the doorframe had peeled. A small sign read, "Brooks Family Pretzels, fresh daily." His heart thudded. Inside, the smell was warm and sweet, cinnamon and butter melting together. Maya stood on a step stool behind the counter, her hands coated in flour, twisting dough into loops. Her mother, Elena, worked beside her, humming softly to an old gospel song on the radio. When Alex stepped through the door, the bell above it chimed. Elena looked up first, instantly wary. "Can I help you?" she asked. Alex removed his cap, rainwater dripping from the brim of his coat. "My name is Alexander Pierce." Her expression hardened. "I know who you are." He nodded. "Then you also know why I'm here." Maya turned, eyes wide, a streak of flour across her cheek. "Mr. Pierce?" Her voice was small, uncertain. Alex knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "You probably don't want to see me." She blinked. "Noah's okay?" "He's fine," Alex said. "Better. Because of you." Maya smiled faintly. "Good." Then shyly, "Did he like the cookies?" "He did," Alex said. "I did too." The air softened a little, but Elena's voice remained guarded. "Mr. Pierce, you have some nerve coming here after what you did to my daughter." He didn't defend himself. He reached into his coat and unfolded the piece of hospital stationery. "My wife once wrote this before she passed. Joy is therapy. I didn't understand it until I met your daughter." Elena crossed her arms. "Words don't heal, Mr. Pierce." "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I'm not here with words. I'm here to ask, please, let Maya see Noah again." The shop fell silent except for the soft hum of the radio. Elena exchanged a long look with her daughter. Maya's eyes glimmered with something between fear and hope. "Can I really?" Alex nodded. "If your mother allows it." Elena studied him, weighing the sincerity in his tone. "I'll need boundaries," she said firmly. "Of course. Safe transport, no cameras, no press. You don't show up in suits with security detail, and you don't make my child your headline." He met her eyes. "Agreed." She hesitated, then extended her hand. "Then we'll try." Alex took it, his grip humble. Thank you. Maya clapped her hands together, sending a puff of flour into the air. Can I bring pretzels? Alex smiled for the first time in days. Bring as many as you want. On the walk back to Fifth Avenue, the city looked different. The same traffic, the same noise, but lighter somehow. People smiled without recognizing him. A child tugged at his mother's sleeve, pointing at a balloon vendor, and he found himself smiling too. He stopped by a corner bakery and bought 2 hot coffees and a cinnamon pretzel, the kind Maya had made. The warmth seeped into his palms, thawing the last of the frost inside him. When he returned home, Noah was waiting by the window. Where did you go? The boy asked. To fix something I broke. Did it work? Alex nodded. We'll find out tomorrow. That evening, he went back to the West Wing. The last light of the day fell across Sarah's piano, turning the keys gold. He sat down and began to play, not perfectly, not even in rhythm, but with sincerity. The melody wavered, then steadied. In the middle of the song, Noah wheeled in quietly, listening. When the final chord faded, he said, "You went to see her, didn't you?" Alex nodded. And? She forgave us, he said softly. Or maybe she just gave us a chance to try again. Noah smiled for the first time in weeks. Can we invite her here? Soon, Alex said. But next time, it'll be me asking her mother, not my PR team. They both laughed, small and real. Outside, the city lights shimmered like scattered promises. The east-facing windows caught the last of the sun, flooding the penthouse in gold. For the first time since Sarah's death, the glass didn't feel like a barrier. It felt like a window, and in that light, warm, forgiving, unfiltered, Alexander Pierce finally understood that humility wasn't weakness. It was strength, finally facing east after living too long in shadow. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the wide glass walls of the Pierce penthouse, warm and gentle instead of harsh. For the first time in months, the air didn't smell like tension, but like coffee and hope. A faint knock came at the door, 3 soft taps that made Noah straighten in his wheelchair. "Who's that?" he whispered. Alex smiled. "Why don't you find out?" The door opened. Maya stood there, clutching a paper bag tied with twine. Her hair was freshly braided, her jacket still faintly dusted with flour. Behind her stood her mother, Elena Brooks, watching quietly with the firm patience of someone who had learned to protect what she loved. Maya's eyes widened when she saw Noah. "Hi," she said shyly. Noah's face lit up. "You came. I promised." She stepped inside, then hesitated, glancing around at the vaulted ceilings and endless glass. "Wow, it's like a castle that forgot to smile." Alex chuckled softly under his breath. She was right. Elena cleared her throat. "Before we start, Mr. Pierce, we need to discuss a few boundaries." "Of course," Alex said. He gestured toward the living room table. "Please, sit." They sat across from one another, the billionaire in his crisp shirt, the baker in her work jacket, and the little girl sitting between them holding the world together with her innocence. Elena unfolded a handwritten list. "I'm not here for favors or publicity. I'm here because my daughter has a good heart, and I don't want that used." "Understood," Alex said sincerely. "First condition," she began. "Safety. When Maya visits, there'll be a guardian present, me or someone I trust. No yelling, no media, no company cameras. She's not part of your brand." Alex nodded. "Agreed." "Second," Elena continued, "time. Visits will happen only after school or on weekends, and not if it interferes with your son's medical care. We'll coordinate schedules. Done. Third, support. If you're sincere about gratitude, help where it matters. Transportation vouchers for pediatric rehab, maybe sponsor part of the IEP program for kids like Noah. Don't make it about guilt. Make it about change. Alex exhaled slowly. You have my word. And last, Elena hesitated, looking directly at him. You don't owe us money, but if you ever talk about this publicly, you use her name with respect. She's not a symbol. She's a person. He met her eyes. I promise. Maya looked up between them. Does this mean we can be friends again? Elena's sternness softened. Yes, baby. If they keep their word. Noah grinned. I kept your note, he said to Maya. The one that said, don't be sad. It's taped to my wall. Maya giggled. You spelled my name wrong in your reply. He shrugged. I was excited. For the first time in months, laughter filled the penthouse. A few hours later, while Maya and Noah built a tower of blocks in the living room, Alex and Elena stepped onto the balcony overlooking Central Park. The trees shimmered with new green leaves. A breeze carried the faint scent of spring rain. Your son's strong, Elena said quietly. You can see it in how he fights for joy. He gets that from his mother, Alex said. Elena nodded. She must have been someone special. She was, Alex said, voice steady but soft. Sarah believed in people more than I ever did. She used to spend her weekends volunteering at Mount Sinai, playing music for kids who couldn't leave their beds. She'd always say, healing isn't just medicine, it's company. Elena looked at him with quiet understanding. Maybe you're finally learning what she meant. He nodded, watching the children through the glass. I think I am. When Elena and Maya prepared to leave that afternoon, Alex handed her a folder. I took the liberty of contacting HSS, he said. They have a pediatric PT and OT team that can offer joint sessions for both kids, free of charge. I'd like to fund it anonymously. Elena frowned. You don't have to. I know, but I want to, he said. And I'll sign a contract to make sure it's not tied to Whitestone or me personally. I don't want this kindness used as PR leverage. Elena studied him for a long moment, then extended her hand. Informed consent, transparency, no hidden clauses. He smiled faintly. No hidden clauses. You have my full disclosure. Good, she said, shaking his hand. Then maybe we can build something decent out of this mess. Before leaving, Maya looked up at him. Mr. Pierce? Yes. Is Noah gonna laugh again? Alex swallowed hard. He already has, thanks to you. She grinned, then reached into her bag. Then here's your therapy. She handed him a warm pretzel shaped like a heart. He laughed quietly. Best prescription I've ever had. That night, Alex stood in the kitchen alone, staring at the contract Elena had signed. The phrase, Terms of Repair, was written in bold at the top, his title for the agreement. Beneath it were both their signatures. He didn't frame it or file it in the corporate cabinet. He pinned it to the refrigerator beside Noah's drawings. For once, a legal document didn't represent control. It represented conscience. He made a call to HSS, arranging weekly therapy sessions for the two children. When the representative thanked him for the donation, he replied simply, Don't thank me. Thank a 6-year-old who taught me to listen. Later, Noah rolled into the kitchen, hair tousled from sleep. Dad? Yes, buddy? Noah rubbed his eyes. You're smiling weird. Alex laughed. Weird? Yeah, Noah said. Like you're happy but don't know how to hold it. That's probably true. He knelt beside the wheelchair, resting his hand on his son's shoulder. I learned something today. Sometimes grown-ups need rules to remember how to be kind. Noah tilted his head. And sometimes kids don't need rules because they already are. Alex nodded. Exactly. That night, as the city lights glowed beneath them, Alex opened his laptop and began writing a short personal statement. Not for the press, but for the internal newsletter of Whitestone Capital. Compassion isn't a crisis strategy. It's a daily practice. We measure success not by how high we build walls, but by how wide we open doors. This company, like its CEO, is learning that healing begins with honesty. He sent it without copying PR. No edits, no approval chain. When he closed his laptop, the window's reflection showed him something he hadn't seen in years. Not a perfect man, but a present one. The afternoon sun spilled gold over Fifth Avenue, glinting off the glass towers and the black car idling at the curb. But for once, Alexander Pierce didn't arrive in a chauffeured car. He walked. No entourage, no cameras arranged, no script. Just him, his son Noah in his wheelchair beside him, and Maya Brooks holding a paper bag of pretzels that smelled like home. Word had already spread. A few journalists gathered across the street, unsure whether this was another PR stunt or something genuine. The marble steps of 820 Fifth Avenue, where he'd once stood tall and angry in the rain, were now his chosen stage of humility. No microphones, no podium, just an audience of strangers, neighbors, and employees who had come quietly to see if the man who'd once embodied power could now embody grace. Noah tugged on his father's sleeve. Are you ready? Alex smiled faintly. Not even a little, but that's the point. He took a deep breath, then stepped forward onto the top step. The city noise seemed to hush itself. I stood here weeks ago, he began, voice steady but low. And I said things I can't take back. I spoke out of fear, out of pride, out of the need to protect an image that didn't deserve protecting. He looked toward the small figure beside him. That day, my son's wheelchair got stuck in a puddle, and while I watched from a distance, a little girl with nothing to gain and everything to lose helped him without hesitation. She didn't care about who we were. She cared about what was right. He turned to the crowd. Her name is Maya Brooks, and this, he gestured gently toward her, is the child who taught me more about leadership than any boardroom ever did. Gasps rippled softly through the crowd. Maya shrank a little behind her mother, cheeks flushed pink. Elena stood behind her daughter, arms crossed, not in hostility, but in measured pride. Alex continued, To Maya, I want to say what I should have said from the start. Thank you. I am sorry for how I treated you. You reminded me that compassion is not a weakness. It's the only real strength there is. He turned to face Noah. And to my son, who kept me accountable when the world did not, thank you for being braver than your father. Noah smiled, tears gathering in his eyes. From the crowd, a voice called out, Talk is cheap, Mr. Pierce. What are you doing about it? Alex nodded, unoffended. A fair question, he said. So let me tell you. He reached into his coat pocket and unfolded a single-page document. Today, Whitestone Capital will establish the Wings and Wheels Initiative, a 501c3 nonprofit foundation dedicated to improving accessibility for children with disabilities across New York City. He looked around, eyes sweeping over the crowd. Our first partnership, signed this morning, is with the Hospital for Special Surgery and the NYC Parks Department. We're funding new ADA-compliant ramps, inclusive playgrounds, and therapy scholarships for families who can't afford care. A ripple of murmurs spread. Cameras rose, but this time the flashes didn't sting. They illuminated. He smiled faintly. It won't undo what I said. but maybe it will build something better in its place. Because public mistakes demand public repair. Behind him, Noah clapped softly, and Maya followed, her small palms echoing like rain against marble. Soon the entire crowd joined, a gentle human applause that wasn't for the man, but for the moment. As the sound faded, Alex knelt down, not just figuratively, but literally, on the cold stone steps. His knees hit the marble, and he looked Maya in the eye. "Do you forgive me?" he asked quietly. Maya blinked, her small hands gripping the pretzel bag. "I already did," she said simply. "You just didn't know it yet." The words hit him like light breaking through glass. He laughed softly, tears forming in his eyes. "Then I guess I'm the one learning slow." Maya giggled. "You're doing better than yesterday." The crowd melted into smiles. Even the reporters lowered their cameras, some with damp eyes. Moments later, a journalist from the Times approached him gently. "Mr. Pierce, one question. Why do this here, like this?" Alex looked down the steps, where sunlight painted long shadows. "Because this is where I failed," he said. "And sometimes the only way to clean a wound is to return to where it began." He paused. "I used to believe leadership was about being right. Now I know it's about making things right." As he turned to leave, Noah called out, "Dad!" Alex looked back. Noah's grin stretched ear to ear. "That was pretty cool." Alex chuckled. "I'll take that review." Maya waved the paper bag. "Don't forget your therapy pretzels." He took one, biting into it with a smile. Best medicine in Manhattan. By evening, the video of the apology spread online. But this time, the headline was different. "Billionaire kneels to thank the girl who saved his son." "Public mistakes demand public repair," says Pierce in heartfelt address. Within hours, shares of Whitestone steadied. But more importantly, the comments weren't about money or power. They were about humility. One read, "He didn't hire a PR firm. He just showed up." Another, "Finally, a CEO who apologized without a lawyer beside him." And under the photo of Alex kneeling beside Maya, one message stood out, posted by an anonymous user. That little girl reminded New York that grace still exists. Back in the penthouse, the city bathed in twilight. Noah was laughing again, really laughing. Maya sat cross-legged beside him, building towers from leftover pretzel sticks. Alex stood near the window, watching the lights flicker on across the park. Elena joined him, arms folded, her voice low. "You did the right thing." "I should have done it sooner," he said. "Timing's overrated," she replied. "Sincerity isn't." He turned to her. "Thank you for letting me try." She smiled faintly. "Keep trying." As the night deepened, Alex looked once more at the marble steps below, now empty, gleaming under streetlights. He could almost hear Sarah's voice in the breeze. "Joy is therapy. Let him live." He whispered to the dark glass, "We're learning, Sarah. All of us." Behind him, Noah's laughter echoed through the hall, light, free, uncontained. And for the first time, Alexander Pierce didn't feel like a man trapped behind walls. He felt like a father, finally standing on the right side of them. Central Park was wrapped in the gold and violet hush of early evening. The long stretch of the mall, lined with elms whose branches arched like a cathedral, shimmered under the last light of day. Street musicians played soft jazz near the literary walk. Their notes drifted between laughter and birdsong. On a patch of open grass near the benches, 3 figures sat close together. Alexander Pierce, his son Noah, and a small girl with chocolate on her chin and a pretzel bag in her lap. The world had changed quietly since that day on the steps. The Wings and Wheels initiative had gone from a headline to a living project. Construction crews now worked across the park, smoothing pathways, widening ramps, building new inclusive playgrounds with adaptive swings and sensory walls. Whitestone Capital had submitted its Form 990, transparent, audited, public. For the first time, Alex's name appeared on a financial report not beside shareholder value, but beside community endowment. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight was for something smaller, gentler. "Careful," Maya giggled. "You're folding the wings wrong." Noah frowned at the paper bird between his hands. "I'm trying. It's harder than coding." Alex smiled. "That's because you're doing it from the brain, not the heart. Try again." Noah shot him a look. "Since when did you start talking like a poet?" "Since a 6-year-old taught me therapy doesn't always come with an invoice," Alex said. Maya beamed. "You remembered!" The three of them laughed. It felt easy now. No tension, no glass between them. Just laughter and light, and a faint breeze carrying the smell of roasted peanuts from a nearby cart. A woman in a blue HSS polo shirt approached with a clipboard. "Mr. Pierce, just confirming. We've finished testing the new slope angles for ADA compliance. Everything meets universal design standards. Congratulations, sir." Alex shook her hand. "Thank you. It's your team's work that makes this real." As she walked away, Elena Brooks arrived, holding 2 cups of hot cocoa. "Approvals before sunset," she said with a wry smile. "You really are changing." "I'm trying," Alex admitted, "though Noah keeps me on quality control." Elena handed him a cup. "That's what children do. They measure us where no metric can." He nodded slowly. "Then I hope we pass their audit." She laughed softly, the sound blending with the rustle of the trees. They watched as the children played, Maya pushing Noah's wheelchair over the new smooth path, stopping near a ramp that curved down to the open lawn. "Ready?" she said. "Ready," Noah answered. He gripped the wheels and guided himself down the ramp. The slope was perfect, safe, steady, free. At the bottom, he raised his hands in triumph. "I did it myself," Maya clapped. "Told you. See, the world's not that scary when it's built right." Alex's eyes glistened as he watched them. "She's right," he murmured. "Build it right, and people thrive." Elena looked at him thoughtful. "So what's next?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe less building towers, more building places that heal." As the sun dipped lower, the park glowed amber. They all gathered again beneath the elm trees. Maya tore a pretzel in half and handed the bigger piece to Alex. "You earned this," she said solemnly. He accepted it with mock seriousness. "Is this official therapy?" "Doctor's orders," she said, grinning. He bit into it, laughing. Still the best medicine in New York. Noah leaned back in his chair, looking up at the fading sky. "Dad?" "Yes, buddy? Promise you won't take Maya away again?" Alex's expression softened. He crouched beside his son, the light washing over both their faces. "I promise. Laughter first. Pride can wait." Maya giggled. "You sound like you should write that down." "I already did," Alex said. "It's in Whitestone's new memo. Tone from the top. Gratitude first." Noah tilted his head. "That's cheesy." "Maybe," Alex said. "But cheese makes the pretzel better." They all laughed again, the kind of laughter that shakes the last shadows out of grief. As twilight deepened, a small crowd began to gather near the path, passers-by recognizing them. Whispering softly, but not with gossip, with warmth. A jogger waved, a street musician played a few bars of What a Wonderful World. Elena leaned against the railing, watching the children chase falling leaves. "You know," she said quietly, "I think Sarah would have liked this." Alex nodded, eyes distant but peaceful. "She's here," he said. "In every ramp, every laugh, every crumb of joy we finally let in." He turned to her. "Thank you for letting me make things right." Elena smiled. "You didn't need permission. You just needed courage." He exhaled, the weight finally gone. When the first stars blinked above the skyline, Noah and Maya began folding their paper birds again. This time, Alex joined them. Together, they released the small white cranes into the air. The breeze caught them, lifting them above the park, scattering them toward the city like tiny messengers of peace. A few children nearby clapped as the birds floated away. Noah pointed at one soaring high above the fountain. "That one's yours, Mom," he whispered. Alex rested a hand on his son's shoulder. "And she's smiling." The light lingered just long enough for him to believe it. Later, as the sky turned indigo, Alex pushed Noah's wheelchair toward the path that led home. Maya walked beside them, swinging her pretzel bag. Elena locked up the last of the donation boxes, calling out, "You two have school tomorrow. Don't make me remind you twice." "Coming," Maya said. Then she looked back at Alex. "Mr. Pierce?" "Yes?" "Are we still friends when you're not on TV?" He smiled, eyes kind. "Especially then." She nodded approvingly. "Good. Because you're less scary now." He laughed. "Best compliment I've had all quarter." At the edge of the park, the streetlights blinked on, circles of golden warmth cutting through the dusk. Alex paused, looking back one last time at the stretch of the mall where the children's laughter echoed. He thought of Sarah, of the long years he'd spent chasing perfection instead of peace, of how a little girl from Harlem had rebuilt him with mud-streaked hands and unshakable grace. He whispered into the quiet, "We're home." Then he pushed Noah's chair forward, walking beside Maya as the city glowed around them, equal, unguarded, together. Sometimes, it takes the smallest act of kindness to remind us that the world can still heal. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and stay with us for the next journey of hope, forgiveness, and second chances. Thank you for watching, and for believing that love still changes everything.